While I enjoyed my first Hooke Road bumper due to price, lightweight, easy to install, I knew I ultimately wanted a winch bumper. I thought about modifying what I had until I saw a new winch bumper from Hooke Road for only $500. Immediately, I knew I had to have it, and I really couldn't recommend you buying the previous one to modify for a winch since the price has gone up now. Since the last bumper video was doing so well, I reached out to Hooke Road in hopes of a collaboration and sponsorship with this new bumper, and thankfully they agreed, so big thanks to Hooke Road for making this video possible. The goal of the last video is to find the cheapest bumper. The goal of this video is to find the cheapest winch bumper, and I also have to say I like the lines and design of this new bumper better. If you're interested in any of the gear you see in this video, I posted links in the description to my Amazon storefront for complete lists of what you'll need based on which 4Runner you own, being 03 to 05 or 06 to 09. Using my affiliate links is super appreciated and is a huge help to me in being able to do more videos like this. If you're installing this bumper now, I suggest watching the video all the way through because there are important notes based on things I encountered during the install, and I'm just trying to save you time. This bumper weighs in at 98 pounds compared to my previous one that was just 78, which makes sense considering the new one has a winch mount. And remember, even at 98 pounds, this is still half the weight of most of the other steel bumpers out there. The directions recommend 2 to 3 people to do this install, but I'm not a big guy and I was able to do it alone. Please leave any questions in the comments or find me on Instagram and send me a DM with any questions there. And please subscribe and share this with your friends. This new bumper accepts round fog lights from either a second gen Tacoma or using an included adapter bracket, you can use Jeep JK fog lights. Since I'm installing this Tacoma bumper on a 4Runner, I had to try fitting the stock 4Runner fog lights, and there was just no good way to do that. So I jumped back on Amazon and found these sweet Nightlight brand amber fog lights for Jeep JKs. They were a great price and I think they look rad. The directions clearly enough outline the hardware to use throughout the process. Just make sure you have a basic set of wrenches, sockets, Allen wrenches on hand for the install. The biggest wrench you'll need is a 19mm. One side of the Jeep fog light adapter bracket was tapered differently, but I couldn't really see any real reason to suggest flipping it one way or the other. Maybe to clear the bottom panel better, but it actually cleared either way. I put my tapered side facing down. The included nuts grip the back side of the plate here, so I ended up not needing to hold the nut with a wrench to tighten these bolts down. I was stoked that the Jeep fog lights and included bumper hardware all fit perfect. You never know when it's all aftermarket products. Note that these fog lights are very bright and you need to properly aim them to prevent blinding other drivers. This is easy to do with an adjustment screw on the back of the light. More on this later. The next step was to install the sticky foam on the middle bumper section and bolt on the wings. Bolting on the wing is something I like to start by hand, drive in with the impact and final torque by hand so I know it's good and tight. The bull bar really is optional, but subscribing is not, so hit that sub button. An 03 to 05 4Runner grill might clear the bar while opening the hood since it's a shorter grill, but definitely with the 06 to 09 4Runners, you need to trim the top of the bull bar to be able to open the hood. I like the bull bar because it helps hide the gap under the grill on the 03 to 05 models, and it hides the cuts on the corners of the grill on the 06 to 09 models. The 4Runner has a total of 4 threaded mounting studs per frame horn, while the Tacomas only have 3. So we need to drill an extra hole on each mount to make it fit. While I'm removing my previous steel bumper, I'll play a portion of my last install video to show you how to remove the stock one. Watching me guess how it goes in real time. There's a few bolts to remove up high on the sides of the bumper. They're kind of hard to see, so get a flashlight in there. There's a few of those annoying plastic pins on top and a few more bolts to remove underneath. Then it pretty easily, falls right off. Remove the 7 bolts holding these arms in. Then remove the arms. Remove the top plastic pin holding the rubber splash guards up. I was getting tired of removing the frame horn nuts when I realized the crash bar can unbolt first and make the frame horn nuts a lot easier to access using the impact. You can see the 4Runner frame has 4 bumpers. That's how you remove the stock bumper. Now let's drill the holes in our frame mounts. I use a cheap step drill bit from Amazon on my drill set to ultrasonic mode, which isn't exactly great for the bits, but it got through quick. The best way to treat your bits is a slightly slower speed with oil or water, some kind of lubrication to keep the cutting edge cool. Keep in mind you can always drill out or grind the lower edge of the mount holes if you need to push the bumper mount up more during alignment. Now it's time to mount the license plate hinge holder. I know probably most of you won't, but install the front plate to stay legal in all states. Clearance issues with the parts themselves weren't a problem on my previous Hooke Road bumper, but this one I needed to grind the bottom section of both mounts for them to install. Remember to hit any of your cut parts with paint before installing to prevent rust. Leave these hinged alignment parts of the bumper mounts finger tight or maybe just over finger tight so you can make alignment adjustments with it on the 4Runner. For this adjustment, I pushed the bumper mount all the way up on the frame horns and tightened them down. I quickly realized the driver's side wasn't going up enough for me, so I used my carbide bits from Amazon on my electric die grinder to lengthen the driver's side mount holes, which actually was just the bottom of the bottom mount hole. And you could use these carbide bits on a drill or just use a drill bit to drill out the bottom of that hole also. The winch mount is optional if you don't plan to install a winch, but I recommend installing it anyway to add rigidity and strength. I had to pull out one of those alignment mount bolts to get the winch plate in. The winch plate looks like it can go in either way with the plate going up or down, but the only way it'll fit without modification is with that plate going downward. Torque the winch plate bolts after installing and aligning the bumper. If you torque it before installing the bumper, you'll pull the frame mounts inward just a little and you won't be able to get the bumper on. I made this mistake the first time. And right then, it started pouring rain, so I had to get cleaned up quick and continue filming the next day. For those of you who installed the bull bar, like the video and subscribe. And before you fully align and install the bumper, you need to trim the top of the bar for grill clearance. Just pop your hood, set the bumper on the truck, and mark where the cut is needed. Pick up some of this push-on trim from Amazon at the link below. This stuff is cheap, easy to use, and makes any cut edge look finished. Push it on and use the wire cutters to trim the excess. For the 06 to 09 4Runner owners, it's time to trim your grill. Just lower the grill down, mark where you think the corner cuts need to be made, and cut them at the same angle that you see the bumper angles are. It took me 2 or 3 attempts on each corner to get this cut exactly right. It is cutting through mostly plastic, so the cuts are pretty quick and easy. Because everyone is concerned about the bumper gap, I had to try different weather stripping than what I used before. So I picked up one that has the bulb on top and gave it a fair shot. It closed the gap, but it looked terrible where it stuck out on the ends of the wings. So if you're concerned about it, just use the push-on weather stripping in the link if you want to help the visual appearance of the gap a bit. Keep in mind there's actually a lot of flex between the top of the steel bumper and the bottom of the headlights and fender flares. Some gap really is necessary to prevent damaging your fenders and lights. Now you can install the bumper and start tightening all the bolts that we left finger tight. The Nightlight Jeep fog lights I got happen to have the correct connector to plug right into my 06 4Runner harness. If you get different fogs on yours and they don't match like on mine, then pick up this pair of harness adapters to wire your own connection. Keep in mind with LEDs, it's not always red wire to red wire and black to black. I had to flip my connector 180 for it to work, but then the lock didn't engage, so I used a zip tie to keep the connector together. I used a second zip tie to hold this connector close to the frame. If you have an 03 to 05 4Runner, then pick up some fog lights that have a DRL turn signal function built in, so you can wire up the fog lights and the turn signals. I'll have a separate link for you 03 to 05 people with those lights and the correct wiring adapters. And if you do get the new fog lights with the DRL turn signal and main light on it, I would use the adapters to wire the OEM turn signal to the new turn signal lead and the OEM fog light wired to the new DRL and main fog light lead. If you're not installing a winch, then the last thing is to trim your fender liner to fit up behind the bumper and find holes in the frame to zip tie it to. I also drilled a couple holes in this plastic liner to create a zip tie mount point on the fender liner. When aiming the fog lights, I maxed out my alignment screw, so I ended up using washers on the bottom of that adapter bracket to pull the bottom out and aim the lights further down. Something to note, you can always loosen one side of the bumper hinging alignment mounts to push one side of the bumper up while the other side is actually still tight. I ended up pulling up the driver's side more and the gap got a bit tighter. I went on to install Amazon's cheapest 12,000 pound winch, and there's actually a small list of tricks and workarounds I had to do to make that happen correctly. So if you're interested in that part of the install, then click the video on the screen to continue. If you're done here, then leave questions in the comments, and thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.